Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Barstool Baseball Show. It is Carl. I am joined by Chris Klemmer, and we are here to talk about the second half. How you doing, bud?
Good. Ready for some baseball. We're taping this on Thursday. No, it's the fourth day with no baseball. It's starting to drag, so I'm going to the movies, see Mission Impossible because there's nothing else. There's nothing going on. So it's like, all right, let's go. I'm definitely ready for baseball. I'll show up tomorrow. When people hear this, I'm sure they're gonna be feeling the same way.
Yeah, this is the worst time on the sports calendar, people say.
I did pick some the last couple of days, and we were like, we made it work, but like it was definitely like, what the fuck are we gonna talk about? Because there's nothing going on.
Yeah, I'll stretch Wimbledon if you want. I like men's doubles. I think that's interesting. Pickleball's been unique. But like, what are we really doing here? We're getting ready for the second half of Major League Baseball. Obviously, coming out of the All-Star game, we had a show up. Me, Castellani, RDT broke that down after the game. And we were thinking for the three-show format for today, as the games get going and we head into this weekend, there's a couple of really big storylines. There's a couple of really, really huge storylines. Now, maybe like the biggest of the last decade, 20 years. I don't really know. I know that for each division we went through it, there's something that's pretty cool that's going on. And then we've also picked out division winners. I went as far as to fill out an entire playoff bracket.
Okay.
We got trade deadline stuff to talk about. I trust that you and I can put on a great product here to help people kind of sink their teeth into the second half. And I feel like the best place to start would be in the NL East and with what's going on with the Mets and kind of get us warmed up here, because I don't think a casual baseball fan could understand just how surprising it is for an in-depth baseball fan that the Mets are in a position to sell based on a number of factors: the talent, the amount of money that they spent, the expectations, how good they were last year, the leadership that they have in the dugout. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to go south for them to be in a position to sell. Are they going to sell, do you think?
I don't know if they are. They certainly aren't going to sell the way I want them to. So they're 42 and 48. They're 7 games out of the wild card. That puts them behind the Cubs, the Padres, the Brewers, the Phillies. So, yeah, it's bad. It's really bad. And I think they need to make some drastic changes, because the issue isn't so much this year, which has been a complete nightmare. A horror show if you're a Mets fan. We came into the season expecting 95, 97, 100 wins. Had 101 wins last year. And that's not going to happen this year, right? They're 42 and 48. So the real concern was for next year. Because next year still means Verlander. Now he's a year older. Still means Scherzer's a year older. Still means Starling Marte's a year older. All these guys that are showing their age are a year older. Now, my idea, what I would like to see, now some selling out are kind of obvious. Like Mark Canha, you could sell with no problems. David Robertson is probably the most obvious. Every team needs a good reliever. You're not going to get a lot back for those guys. You'll get some, something here, something there. And Cohen's been good about eating his salary. Like they traded Eduardo Escobar. And because Cohen ate the whole salary, they were able to get 2 prospects back instead of 1. Max Scherzer. Okay. He has a player option for next year for $43 million. He's obviously going to do that. I know. It's insane. Sorry. I know. So here's my idea is the Mets agree to eat up 95% of that salary, sunk cost anyway, and we trade him somewhere. And remember, he's not a 10-5 guy. I don't know if he has a trade clause. I don't know. But, he might also want to go somewhere where he can win, and, there's a lot of teams, we talk about this all the time on the show, every week, I feel like, that needs starting pitching. So if he's going to come at a cheap cost, as long as we get some prospects back. Now, you're not going to get what you get for Ohtani. I know Meek Phil has said, he's got a 4.2 ERA, no one wants him. That's bullshit. People would take him. He's Max Scherzer, he still has a 4.2 ERA. He's still a decent starter. He's just not great anymore. You could get something back. He was pretty good last year, too. So, I mean, you could maybe would have left in that arm. But it's a bad situation for the Mets. And it's when we start talking about eating 95% of a $43 million salary for next year, and I don't know what they do next year other than try to get Ohtani. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss.
So, to clarify, regardless of what you think they'll do, what would you do?
I would do that.
I would sell these guys.
I don't. So I think what they're going to do, like I said, is Robertson maybe, Canha maybe. What are you going to? What I would do is I would blow everything up as much as you can with the roster out. Now, I'm not saying you get rid of Nimmo or you get rid of Alonso. You try your best to sign those guys. We're still Steve Cohen's still our owner. We still have a good core, I believe, of guys you can build around. Senga's been pretty decent.
Oh, he's been great. You can't say that. See, this is where I kind of have to wear my filter because I think Senga for what you're paid, is he great relative to Major League Baseball? He's pretty damn good, but for where, that's a great sign to me. That's a great free agent sign.
No, I'm saying that's a good one. I'm saying that's what you build around. Nimmo has been great this year. Senga's been very good. No, I think there are some, and Alonso, obviously, I know his contact has been down. I still believe in Lindor. I know his contact's. Oh, yeah. Those are all. So there's enough pieces there, is my point, where you can build around those guys. But there are certain things you need to blow up. And the rotation with Verlander, Scherzer, I don't know what you do about Marte. I think you just pray he gets better next year. He's healthy next year. I don't know. He's so bad. But I would try to move whoever you could and build up that farm system, which Cohen has said a number of times. We need to be better from an organizational standpoint. There was a graph that came out on Twitter. I don't know if people.
Well, that's one of the worst graphs of all time. This is one of the most damaging things about a front office. I'm sorry to steal this. I'm not stealing. I'm giving it right back to you. But I want, as our listeners are going through this, what Chris is about to explain, this is fucking bananas.
Yeah, there's a graph that came out. Basically, it said how many draft picks did you have and how many guys made it to the majors and what's the percentage. And the Mets were a distant 30th. They were the only team that was in the single digits as far as, I think, at 9% of guys they drafted made it to the majors. Now, as a data guy, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. This is somewhat misleading because it's basically saying if a guy went up for a cup of coffee, it's the same value as Mike Trout or whatever. You know what I mean? So we have to kind of parse this a little bit, but the data don't lie. And the number one team, I think, was the Astros by a mile, who have the best organization in base, one of the best. The Dodgers are on there. All the teams you expect to see are on there. And the fact that the Mets are a 30th shows you how bad it's been for us, especially when you look the Brody era we had here when he was the GM. He was horrible. And he just had people in charge that had no business being in charge in it. And that's why we have to sign Verlander for $43 million and pray he's not old. And guess what? He's old.
Yeah, so the specific numbers are the Mets drafted 328 in this sample. The Astros the Astros had 329 picks. The Mets matriculated 30 to the major league level. The Astros 77. Now, the Astros were pumping a lot of guys up. That's a good point. And the Mets had been competitive enough to have a high threshold for most of that window, at least early in that window. And there's trades that impact that. Guys that would be in the big leagues end up in packages. But it is telling that, you're fucking dead last. You don't want to be dead last. You don't want to be behind Oakland. You don't want to be behind the Chicago White Sox and the Colorado Rockies when it comes to stuff like this.
Jesus, no. This is an indictment on how bad it's been. And Cohen's credit, he's been saying that since day one. He said right off the bat, we got to get better organization.
Yeah.
You can't win by keep trying to, and it's expensive to try to win this way, try to keep signing these old-ass guys and hoping they don't age out while you have them. And eventually you're going to run into a wall. Unfortunately, we ran into it a year earlier than I had kind of hoped or figured out or thought. But it happened. These guys got old overnight, both of them at the same time. And Verlander and Scherzer are still okay, but you need better than okay to win, especially in a division that has teams like the Phillies and Braves.
And sure. We're in this, so let's talk in the division. I like starting with the Mets about this. We're in the East. I think you and I are both in lockstep. Everybody's in lockstep. The Braves are slam dunks. I think it's 40-1 for the Marlins to win the division, or the Phillies or somebody like that. Even so, I still like the Phillies and the Marlins are two competitive ball clubs for completely different reasons. So I would sell as the Mets. I don't know if Steve Cohen would as the owner. I think he's obviously going to be the one making these decisions. I don't know what his pride is like. This is a good check time for Mets fans to figure out exactly what type of guy you have. He's going to cut checks and all that shit, but I do like that he talks to the media. I do like that he's kind of upfront about stuff and pragmatic and systematic. And but this is a cool gut check time to figure out, is he willing to go, how crazy is he willing to get? As a fan, I would not want to see him get too crazy. I don't like when owners are maybe zany is the word. He wouldn't get crazy, would he? And now as I say that, spending $86 million on two guys that are combined 80 years old is fucking crazy. But he's got the money to do that. He doesn't give a shit about the tax threshold. So relatively speaking, spending money to Steve Cohen isn't crazy. What I'm talking about is, he he wouldn't skip a chance to sell and get a ton of prospects at the cost of his pride, would he?
I don't think so. And there's a way that, so like my plan for this until the organization gets better is kind of like, you get Scherzer, you get Verlander, doesn't pan out, you can basically sell them off for prospects. You're eating a ton of money because now next year we got to replace that guy in the rotation. So we're still paying, under my hypothesis here, we're still paying Scherzer 90% of $40 million. And now we need to go get another starting pitcher to fill his spot. So now you're basically paying $60 million plus the luxury tax things for one starting pitcher or whatever. It gets pricey. I don't think that's crazy if he's spending a shitload of money. I think crazy would be like Steinbrenner, like firing Billy Martin like 5 times. That's crazy. Like that's not. And he's been pretty serious about like saying, hey, I'm going to stick with these guys for a while. Look, it's an open, everyone knows that at the end of the year, Billy Upper is going to be, kicked downstairs and it's going to be David Sturridge in charge, the guy that runs the Brewers or had running the Brewers. So he's going to be the GM. So we're going to have a new GM next year or a new whatever, director of baseball ops, whatever you want to call it. So we know we'll have a new guy in charge next year. And Buck Showalter's safe for this year. He's not going to fire Buck until, at the earliest the end of the year. So I don't think he's being irrational or crazy or emotional now.
All the more reason to sell it. Or, I mean, as a Mets fan, then I'd be optimistic that these guys do leave. I do agree very much that Scherzer would get a return. Verlander get a return.
If he's free, especially for a small market team that can't afford a guy anyway. So if he's basically saying, hey, we're going to pay for this guy, but we want, X, Y, and, or X and Y prospects, you probably wouldn't get more than 2, very good prospects for him. Maybe just one good one. But hey, it's one more than we have, especially with pitching. We have Mets, by the way, Mets farm system has no pitching prospects at any high level. All we have are
no. Yeah, no.
So if you gave us like a really top shelf starting pitching prospects, but in exchange we need to eat all of Scherzer's salary, sure.
Yeah, but maybe the reason it's deeper than that, not drafting or acquiring the pitching prospects. Like maybe you guys just don't know how to develop pitchers, which is more fucked up than it's like, then don't trade for that kid in single A or double A because you're just not going to do shit with them, or you're not going to help that kid reach his potential. That's a fucked up thing if you guys don't have any good pitching prospects, but you guys are that good with the hitting department. Because when you look at the lineup, like Nimmo, first-round draft pick. Alonso, first-round draft pick. However Beatty came across, he's in and he's playing well. Frankie,
he hasn't been playing.
Okay, well, all right. I should say for 22, 23-year-old kid, like
Frankie Alvarez has been great.
Frankie Alvarez is a legitimate one. Yeah, Frankie Alvarez,
guys like Mauricio and Vientos in AAA that are both decent, especially Mauricio, decent hitting prospects. No, I think if you're Cohen and you're Stearns, if you're not doing a true autopsy on every level of your system and how you run things from an organizational perspective, that's malpractice. Like you need to go in there, you need to look at every single element of this team, this organization, from soup to nuts, and figure out what the fuck went wrong. And you're right, pitching in the minor, especially the higher levels, is a desert. Why? What are we doing wrong? How do we fix this?
Yeah, that's not just because the players aren't good or like some mistakes have been happening. That's a fundamental error. Okay, coming out of the Mets and back broader with the National League East. I agree. I wanted to just tie this up. I would sell. I'd blow it up. I know the Mets fans don't want to see that. I know you guys are. I would get killed for this if I was a Mets fan, but I would be fine winning 62 games in 2024 if we didn't get Shohei Ohtani. And I knew that the payroll's $350 million at least. And I knew there were prospects coming along, and I knew we had a new front office to play with a year and all that stuff. I would be okay with that, but it's such a hard fucking thing to see.
You're asking them to sell. You're asking them to trade Alonso then.
Yeah, I would.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, is there a way? No, I know. Is there a way you can you trade Lindor? Is there a way you can keep Alonso and you can keep Nimmo and not really do shit in 2024 and take a step back and get rid of some of these pitcher salaries? No, there isn't. No,
his contract's too long. So no one's gonna, you're not gonna get the value you get. The value guys out there, it's not even Nimmo because Nimmo, you're still paying him $20 million. The value guys out there would be like an Alonso.
Do you think Alonso, in your experience watching baseball, does a player like Alonso, does he fall off a cliff anytime soon? Young, power hitting first baseman, not a lot of injury history.
Not soon. I mean, guys like him typically don't. All of his skills are what Bill James calls like old man skills, right? Like power, pretty good on base percentage. Those are things that old men do pretty well. So I think that would stick. He's 28, right? So I don't know. I have like if they sign him to like a 7-year extension or something, I'd be fine with that. You know what I mean? Like, but if you're talking about really how do we rebuild this minor league system, he'd be someone you have to move, which I don't know if I'd be in favor of. In fact,
I would not be in favor of that either. I think Pete Alonso is a guy who's got to stick around if you have World Series aspirations, because you just need to do you're just at a disadvantage if you get rid of that guy. That guy's fucking awesome, and he's heart of gold. He's a dude who shows up for Citi Field. People love him at Citi Field. It's hard to like capture that and replace that.
He has actual like 40 home run power. When I say that, I mean like every year. Like he has the capability of hitting 40 home runs every single year, no matter for the foreseeable future. I don't think you move a guy like that, especially with the other issues we have in this lineup, where not many other guys can hit for power. Alvarez obviously can, but I think you keep Alonso. I said you can't blow all of it up because there's so much money involved, there's so many things tied, and we're kind of stuck to some of these guys. But you could move Scherzer.
I'd move Scherzer. I'd move Verlander.
I don't think you move Verlander because you have to pay $80 million the next 2 years.
I mean, you don't think the Dodgers would take him?
We'd have to eat a huge amount of that salary. And Verlander's ERA is under 4. Remember, he's also older than Scherzer. And like I said, it's not just one more year because of the player option. So it'd be 2 more.
Yeah. Yep. I could do this all day. I won't. I want to predict.
Move on to something else.
Yes, that. NL East winner. Okay, you and I both have the Braves, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Braves. I'll say this. I'll go higher. Braves will have the best record in Major League Baseball, which is not much of a reach, but
go higher for me.
They have a really good chance of breaking the all-time record for most home runs by any team in Major League Baseball history. They're on pace to do it, which is, I think, as a history nerd, it's something to watch for and very interesting.
Great park. And the one time I got down to Truist was also Star Wars night, and they had the Millennium Falcon that they had shot scenes with. Part of it. It was cool. Hey, they did a great job. I'm giving the Braves fans credit. Braves fans think I don't like them, which can be further from the truth. So I will continue to, I will push that narrative as much as I can. Other teams from the NL East that you think make the playoffs? I'll volunteer. I think that the Phillies and the Marlins also make the playoffs.
I like the Phillies a lot. I think the Phillies are going to make the playoffs as well. I think the Marlins, I'm not as high on. I think the Marlins will make a rate. Look, if you told me, hey, I'm from the future, the Marlins make the playoffs, I'd be like, all right, that makes sense. Sure. I think Louis Arise, if you put a gun to my head, I would say his batting average is going to finish at like 377. That's the number. That's just, once again, I'm just kind of guessing. I just think he's that good where, yeah, he might not hit it 400, but he's going to have an unbelievable season, obviously, and that will continue. I think the way, Yuri Perez obviously isn't ready for that full season yet. And, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're obviously setting him down. I just think that they're not quite there yet, but the pieces are in place. Like, next year, they are going to be a serious problem.
Yeah. And obviously, every year, they just bring up more minor leaguers that you don't know about. We don't know about. They're not. They're being great now. They're out getting the scouting reports written about them now. It just happens every time with the Marlins. So like, oh, this fucking guy. I suppose let's just stay on the East Coast. I would like to talk about the Yankees because they're up big in the news because Jeter had an electric comment where he was like, go out and get Soto, let him play left or right or whatever he wants to do. Now, I don't necessarily about them getting Soto, but do you like the idea of the Yankees being huge buyers? Do they even have prospects to do that?
Yeah, so we have prospects. So here's a trade that I pitched on Pick Central that I think is interesting. So Buster Olney said, they asked him, like, which teams are going to get Ohtani? Which teams potentially could get Ohtani? And he's like, we'll start with Yankees, maybe the Rangers. So he was all, and he's obviously connected with the Yankees. Works for it worked in New York for a while. I think he's a Yankees fan too. But so okay. So here's my potential deal. It is a Volpe, their current shortstop, and they could move Oswald Cabrera up to take Peraza, Oswald Peraza to be the shortstop, and he's a good player. He has a 500 slugging percentage in the minor leagues, so he's good. I love Volpe. I'm a huge Volpe guy. but it's going to cost something to get Ohtani. So
don't the Angels have Volpe? His name's Zach Neto. Same fucking story, same profile, same skill set. So then you're just gonna have two of those guys in the middle infield. Seems like even for the Angels, seems like a dumb idea. But Volpe is better than Neto.
I think,
but I don't think by much.
I think Volpe is different than Neto. I think Volpe hits for more power than Neto. And Neto, and I think Volpe also, you could move him to second base potentially. So, or even third. But you have Rendon, he's always hurt. But here's my perspective.
But you think that highly of Volpe, my point.
I love Volpe.
We love Volpe.
Absolutely going to be an all-star player. I know that there's certain, he's been playing a lot better the last couple of weeks for sure. But I know that if you look at the entire season, you're like, oh, what is this? He doesn't miss a game. He's playing in New York. He's the shortstop, and he's still putting up a decent WAR. He's good defensively. I love his base running. He does so many things really well. I'm really excited about his future. So it's Volpe, Jason Dominguez, who's a center field prospect that they're pretty high on, and Josh Donaldson. To the Angels for Ohtani. Why Donaldson? It helps balance out the salaries. The Yankees aren't going too far over the luxury tax, which they're very conscious of. Dominguez gives him a prospect to throw in Double-A, helps that minor league farm system for the Angels disaster. You can put Volpe in right now, and I think for a 2-month rental, that's a pretty good return on the Yankee side. This now gives you a rotation of Cole, Ohtani, and Rodon. Now you have a lineup of Ohtani and Judge in there. That's nasty.
I'd probably want more. I'd want more, even though it's just 2 months of Shohei. You get the 10, 12 starts plus the playoff starts, which are worth probably $1.5 million, $2 million a piece. Probably $2 million a piece if you want to throw it on the fair market for like down the stretch, and if it matters when you get in October, $1.5 million, fine.
So that's so you're like, hey, I want more, right? And this is a fair thing. And there's going to be other bidders. So my beating with the Yankees might have to throw in a few more of their top 10 prospects, in that, maybe single A, double A phase, which the Angels desperately need. The Angels minor league system has been a disaster for a while now. So having something like that to revitalize them might help. Now, I wouldn't want to be the guy trying to sell that to Angels fans because once Ohtani's out the door, he's gone. Well, if they trade him, he's not coming back. He is gone.
And I think he's gone, period. I think we can accept that he's
gone.
I
think you're right. I think if you're the Angels, you need to sit down with Ohtani and give him a real offer, like 10 years, $500 million, whatever your final offer would be. You present that to him right now. And if he says no, you need to move him. I think that's what you need to do if you're the Angels. You need to put an offer on the table right now. And that way, at least you can tell your fans, too, we made an effort, we tried. It just didn't work out. But you have to at least make an effort. But I agree with you, Carl. I do think he's leaving no matter what. I think the Angels should trade him. The question now is, will they? They probably, honestly, they should have traded him at the last year's deadline.
Because you would have gotten somebody's entire Double-A team and the single A.
And what did he give them? How did he get the Angels? The Angels were bad last year, and they were okay this year for a little while, but they ran again.
No, that was a pride thing when the front office fired Madden and right? I think so.
Yeah, and also the ownership shit. Artie Moreno, I'm gonna sell a team. I'm not gonna sell a team. Well, you can't do that shit, man. Like that just.
Oh, that guy's been a bozo. But then they go out and they sign Rendon. Like they do stuff. They get Shohei. They give Trout the monster deal. There's things where the owner's like, I've done this, but you have to do all the little things too. The Angels are terrible when it comes to starting pitching. And I know people are going to say this year they're okay, but just historically speaking, their development, they're a tick below the Orioles. They just can't draft and develop guys. And then they end up giving CJ Wilson $75-90 million fucking dollars. Yeah, you know what? The Orioles can't draft starting pitching. I don't give a fuck how good Jackson Holliday is and what Adley Rutschman does in his career. I'm talking specifically, and that goes back like 20 years, man. That goes back to like if you want to call it the curse of Mike Mussina, go right ahead and do it because he's the last time that they draft a pitcher who got up and like had a mean. Now someone's gonna say Sidney Ponson. No, that's fine. Come and get it.
Because Ponson had a career like almost 5. We're talking about. You could honestly a better example like Rodrigo Lopez. Well, he came out of the Mexican League using a bunch of different. Really using with Padres. He had a nice career at the Orioles. Fine. We're talking about like elite level starting pitching.
Right.
it's funny because in the 80s, you had Pete Harder's come out of there, I believe. You had Ben McDonald, who was a nice pitcher. Messina was a Hall of Famer. They even traded for Kurt Schilling. Like, they knew how to find good young pitching back in the late 80s, 90s, and that has completely fallen off.
Yep. Well, they can trade this year. They probably will. They probably will. The AL East is going to be, I don't think anybody can catch the Rays because of how the Rays play 10-game stretches. You're not going to see the Rays go anything worse than 4-6 over a 10-game stretch. So to catch the Rays, they're going to have to play like that for 4 or 5 weeks, and behind them, you're going to have to play super hot without any type of hiccups. And there's so many people nipping at each other, so it's not like the Yankees are going to roll into a road series at Minnesota and get a cupcake effort. There's no cupcake efforts on the schedule. I shouldn't say no, but there's a significant more competition in the new playoff format, which I think lends itself to teams not getting too hot or too cold. And I think it's just a tough environment the way the Rays are built. That's kind of how I felt when I was going through this and filling out my playoff bracket. And I like the Yankees. The Red Sox were red hot in the second half. Down the stretch going into the second half. Red hot, 8-9, 9-10. And as I was putting my bracket together, I thought, man, maybe the Red Sox are that creepy team that gets up there and steals. There's so many different things that can kind of sprout from the AL East. But my overarching takeaway was like, of all these alternate realities and universes I'm thinking about, like the one I can't get away from is where the Rays are the AL East champions, but I don't have them as favorites in the playoffs at all in the least bit. I just think that over a 70-game stretch with everything everybody's got to endure, Glasnow's getting better, settle it in and shit. It just seems like I don't know where the holes are with the Rays.
Oh, I know
I don't.
The holes
are right.
Pitching. I'm officially.
Well, you really think that they're not going to be able to piecemeal that together? They got 45 guys in the front office. The Dodgers are the next. They've got like 26. The Rays literally spent like $2 million on data engineers to sit around and figure out which pitch to throw over the next 70 games. That's why I wouldn't say this about any other team. I think the Rays are too smart to fuck this up.
They've lost 6 of the last 7 heading into the break, and that pitching staff is in shambles. Now, do I think they're going to win the AL East? I do, I guess. But I think the Orioles are very frightening, and I think the Orioles, if they make a couple moves, could be really scary. Like, let's just look at the Rays rotation real quick. Heading out, you got Zach Eflin, who's having a very good year. You mentioned Glasnow, who you're right, he's settling in, right? 64 Ks in 41 innings. Like, he's good. As long as he can stay healthy, which is a huge if. You know what you're getting there. He's good. But then Taj Bradley is just so overmatched right now. And then you run in, you got Chirinos, who will make that kind of like that bullpen start thing. They always mix and match him. Sometimes he'll pitch 6 innings, sometimes he'll pitch 1. I don't know. I just don't know if I'm really. This is the most concerned I've been about the Rays since the season started. They got that huge start and when they were kind of cooking on all cylinders. But how long can you last? Like Jeffrey Springs going down, and then you got Drew Rasmussen going down. Now you have Shane McClanahan out. Now if they get McClanahan back in like a week, then yeah, I'm cool. Rays, let's go. But if he's out for a while, like it just gets tough. And especially with the Orioles, I think you're gonna see them make a couple moves. Might not be huge, but I think you're gonna see the Yankees maybe if they don't get Ohtani, which is. We talk about it, but that's not super likely happening. But I think they go get Bellinger. If the Cubs not play well,
fine. Take them.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're the Rays though, and you're like, fuck, these teams that are already breathing down our neck are now getting better. It's like,
yeah. The Rays can make a move though. The Rays have prospects, and the thing I like about the Rays is like you bring up Eflin having a great year. Like they know what they're doing with Eflin when they sign him, and I read something about the change in his changeup. So that was the difference. Because, like, the Rays get you, and they're like, hey, we like this. We want you to do this instead. Big thing. Jason Adams went from being a guy who threw, 3-pitch mix as a reliever. And they're like, no, actually, we want you to throw your changeup 57% of the time. So just something preposterous. So the change with Eflin was he throws his like a changeup grip and usage and all that shit. Now, he's done very well. I'm using him as an example because the way the Rays scout opposition, they can play a player play against another team, see a pitcher, and then the front office is sitting there being like, all right, now if we had that guy, we would do this, 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 and this, and then we would project his stats like this. I mean, they're so far fucking ahead. So I'm just encouraged for the Rays going into the trade deadline that they could make us what we would deem as smaller moves or whatever, but they usually get the bullpen reinforcements and the fourth and fifth starter bolstering that they do is typically pretty good because they got this sixth sense. They see this shit we don't, man.
Yeah,
crazy good.
And they'll get like pieces too. Like I know they got like Lucas Duda 1 year, who's like a fine player. They'll go get those like kind of fine players that are decent enough. And to their credit too, they just got Pete Fairbanks back a couple weeks ago, and he's
unhittable. He's unhittable.
He's really good. So that bullpen's coming together a little bit. Like I said, my pick is the Rays to win the AL East. I'm with you, and we're lockstep there. But I will say I'm much more concerned than I have been at any point in time with that team.
And you think the Yankees get Shohei or Soto?
No. I think the Yankees will. I don't know if the Padres move Soto. They should.
Okay.
I don't know if they do. I think the Yankees will get someone. So Shohei, Soto, or Bellinger.
Or Bellinger. Bellinger's this is the floor you're saying. Like you can't go worse than Bellinger and say you're making improvements.
Because the Yankees have that depth with Peraza. I keep mixing up Oswald, Peraza, and Oswaldo Cabrera. So I'm sorry. They have that depth with Peraza and Volpe, like mix and match. You could trade one of them and just fill the gap immediately. So I think because of that rare depth, I think you will see them definitely make a move for someone. And plus, it's a team that has so many holes. So I think they will definitely make a move for someone. And we'll get
if they could get Peraza out and keep Volpe and still kind of get high value, what a big win. And you know what, as a baseball fan, like I feel like baseball fans should be able to veto a trade. Like Volpe has to play for the Yankees. I would love to see Volpe, 10 years from now, I'd love to be sitting at a game and watching Volpe play and be like, I remember thinking that they were going to trade him. He belongs in pinstripes, which is one of those lame things I say that you fucking hate when people say. Like,
pretty corny. I have you. So there was a trade back in the 90s, so I'm going way back here, like I always do on the show. Jose Cruz Jr. Was with the Mariners, and it was kind of exciting. They just had A-Rod come up. Griffey, obviously, is Griffey. So had Randy Johnson. But the Seattle bullpen was in such shambles. It was a complete disaster zone that they traded Cruz to the Blue Jays in the middle of his rookie year when he was off to an amazing start for like Paul Spoljaric and I forget who the other guy was. So the other like Mike Timlin type reliever. And it was just like, yeah, I think they got to the playoffs of the year, but lost in the first round or something. But like to trade an outfielder, and I know Jose Cruz Jr. didn't have like a Hall of Fame career, but he had a pretty good career. Won a Gold Glove, was a decent player, could do everything pretty well. To trade a piece like that for two middle relievers, not a closer, middle relievers, that always gives you a little pause when you have a guy you've called up that gets off to a decent start to prove yourself to be a major leaguer is hard to do. So if you in your rookie year, if you could be a major league starter rookie year and you trade that person away, that has to give you a little apprehension.
They might have not liked something about him. He was a good player. I remember his entrance point was very exciting. His seasons with the Blue Jays were cool because the Blue Jays had just changed their uniform. They were coming out of the great World Series squads. They were kind of. Speaking of the Blue Jays, we might as well just say one nice thing about them. They just creep around, man. They're sixth right now. I don't have them making the playoffs because of starting pitching issues, even though they do have a group of the best position players in baseball. But he just went out to the home run derby and threw fucking BP to Vlad Guerrero. It was a great moment for the Blue Jays. The owner loves that shit.
Carl, I don't care about that.
You still, but hold on. There's no way they fire John Schneider.
I'm sure you're right.
No way.
There's no way fire him. That team is under because
Alec Manoah is a piece of shit.
He did?
I mean, as a pitcher, as a starting pitcher this year, his statistics. He's a good dude. He's a good guy. He's a good man.
I don't know. I just think that team needs a kick in the ass, and I don't know. You can't. What's the old line? You can't trade the whole team. I don't know what you do here.
He was the kick in the ass. That was the guy they hired when they kicked him in the ass, and then they got kicked in the ass, and then they played well. So that would be messed up. It's not that they're not playing well. They're 50-41. They're third place in the AL East. Well, yeah, they're third place in the AL East, which is historically one of the best divisions in the history. historically one of the best in history. It's one of the best divisions in the history of baseball. So third place right now with 70 games left. Be sensible here, Klemmer. I'm not letting you get off with wanting to fire John Schneider here.
I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, so what happened last year, right? So they got rid of Montoyo. He was 46 and 42, and they canned him. You know, they're not that much better this year. And I don't know what you do with this team. Maybe it's just my frustration. I'm not a Blue Jays fan at all. I appreciate some of the players in the team, obviously, but even as a casual observer of their games, I just walk away so far. I just look at that lineup, I look at that pitching staff, and all I see is just a wild array of talent. And like, this team should be so much better. Like, they are, if you put those rosters on a wall, they have a better team 1 through 26 than the Orioles. But the Orioles have a much better manager and just a much better system as far as
the Orioles are 4 games better right now. It's not like the Orioles are fucking running laps around them.
Blue Jays. It should be the other way around, if not more so. I think, in my opinion, honestly, the Blue Jays are like 7-8 games better than the Orioles, like talent structure wise. Yeah, I just think the Orioles are really, the Blue Jays are really good. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know how to fix it. Maybe you're right. Maybe firing another manager mid-season is like a Steinbrenner move, and it's like, that's erratic, and don't do that. I hear that. I'm not disagreeing with you, Carl. I just don't know what to do to fix it. I'm kind of frustrated. And I'm not, maybe I'm not right enough, but I just don't know what the answers are. And I'm just kind of lost. Because they, like, everything, my data brain tells you, they don't just beat teams typically. They blow them out. Look at the scores of a lot of their games. They just beat the shit out of teams. But then the next day, they'll lose. Or they'll go on one of these Jags, they lose like 12 of whatever. They'll lose 12 and win 6. So like, 6 and 12 or 18 game stretch. You're like, what the fuck are you doing? I'm very frustrated with them.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to compare them to the Orioles, I do want to point out the Orioles schedule is second half. Okay. Brace yourself, pal. Ready for this one?
Yeah.
Okay. And as I do this, they're 54 and 35. They have the second best record in the American League. Okay. 3 against the Marlins, 3 against the Dodgers, 4 in Tampa, 3 in Philly, 3 against the Yankees, 4 in Toronto, 3 against the Mets, 3 against the Astros, 3 in Seattle, 3 in San Diego, 3 in Oakland. It's not until August 18th, Friday night in Oakland, after you've already played 6 West Coast games, where you're really looking at a team being like, we should beat the shit out of them. And that's assuming the Mets don't sell or whatever. The Mets, like, we went through the Mets and the talent. Yeah, and I mean, when we get to the West about this, that's going to be my bold prediction about this, because I think the Padres are about to get fucking red hot if they don't trade Juan Soto. But they got to walk in the clubhouse and go, he ain't fucking leaving, and just leave. Peter Seidler needs to walk right in that clubhouse, point at Juan Soto. I want everybody's attention right now. That motherfucker ain't leaving. Start playing baseball. Boom. I think the Pods are going to get hot. But
I think the Padres have a much better chance. If we talk about the underachieving teams, there's 3 of them, right? Cardinals, Padres, and Mets. The Padres, by far, in my opinion, have the best chance of being that team that rises up in the second half.
They should do it. They got the personnel for it. Everything about San Diego speaks to me as a team that's going to go on an absolutely horrid run in August.
I like the way they played heading into the break. They won the last 2 against the Mets, but they also, I feel like they're just clicking a little bit better. Like, Blake Snell's been pitching great. I just feel like they're kind of kicking it in all systems. I don't know. The Blue Jays frustrate me. You're right. That's a great poll about the Orioles schedule. Maybe the Orioles are kind of heading for a bit of a punch in the face here. So I don't know. The Blue Jays frustrate me. I'm impressed by the Orioles overachieving, but maybe they're going to come to earth a little bit here this next month.
Yeah. I have a budget. I mean, I've got the Rays, the Yankees, and the Orioles making it. I do not have the Blue Jays, and I do not have the Red Sox.
I have the Rays, Orioles, and Yankees making it.
Okay. No, yeah. So you and I have the same 3. You and I have the same 3 making it. There's not really much as far as big second half. We get ready for the second half when we look at the AL Central. Like, the White Sox are going to sell. It's crazy. It's just crazy. It's sad. That's one of the sadder stories in baseball for me, because they should be better and the fans deserve better out there. It's also Tito Francona is likely going to win another division title. His greatness can't be celebrated enough. I believe 12 of 17 seasons in Major League Baseball, he's won at least 90 games.
He's incredible. He's the best manager in baseball. Braden Hyde has a stake to that claim. If he can manage a little bit longer. But Francona is an absolute legend. I don't know if he's going to win the division. Because the Twins are a good team, but not good. I should say. The Twins are a good enough team to win this shitty division. None of these teams are good. But Francona, absolute legend. You're absolutely right. Once again, I agree with you on the White Sox. I went into the season thinking the White Sox could win that division. I thought they were going to win just because I figured the battle of who could care less. And I figured they could do it. That's the team I would fire that manager, but you can't. You just fucking hired him. So I don't know what you do with the White Sox. I tear that down to the foundation. Everything's gone. Everything's gone. I rebuild everything because whatever they're doing, I don't know. You know better than I do, Carl. You're there. But I'm talking about another team. I just look at it. I just can't believe what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'd start with the marketing. I go to the front office. I'd start with the minor league coordinators, everybody. I mean, everybody, the bat boys, obviously the players. Jake Berger, you can stick around, I would say. There's just so much shit going on in that clubhouse. It's just guys personalizer all over the place. And that's fine. I get it. I get that. That's part of life. But they're not playing good baseball. If you were playing good baseball and there's shit that's going on, it's like, yeah, whatever, fucking stuff happens. But it's very obvious that there's something going on with these guys where they just don't play hard. From Yohan Moncada, Eloy is always hurt. Eloy has the talent and is the specimen to be talked about 50, 60 years from now, regularly. People, oh man, I was there. I remember watching Eloy hit batting practice because he's that incredible. And nobody's ever going to know because he's always fucking hurt. So I'm firing the medical staff, traders too, anybody who's in charge of the athletic tape. Anything at all, I'm with you. Tear that entire thing down. And Reinsdorf doesn't give a fuck. The guy who owns it. It's kind of a waste to talk about because my father is a diehard White Sox fan. He's why I'm passionate and knowledgeable about baseball, even though I'm a Cubs fan. My mother's a Cubs fan. So it was a very respectful house about baseball growing up. It was not turn the Cubs off because the Cubs suck, and it wasn't fuck the White Sox. It was like, oh, who you guys playing tonight? And he's like, we got the fucking Indians. You know how they are. They got this Albert Bell son of a bitch. So I have a close affinity to that organization, and to see it like this is just sad because these people care as much as anybody can care about a professional sports team. So I'll throw White Sox fans up there with I've been impressed to get to know Mets fans over the years because I think you guys are really fucking crazy, a little delusional, a little out of touch with stuff, but you guys really, really care as much as I think people can care. I don't know if Cubs fans care as much. We're just more oh, shut. I don't know how many broken Cubs fans there are. There are broken Mets fans. There are broken White Sox fans. There are men that are the season ticket people call them. They fucking spike the phone on the ground and they run over to the desktop and go to Twitter. Can't believe that bitch called me. Thinks I'm re-upping tickets. It's a very nasty situation. And that's kind of the only big storyline I had for the American League Central is just how fucking sad it is for the White Sox.
One thing to keep an eye on with the White Sox, though, is while their season is a dumpster and it's a disaster, you're absolutely right, is that there are some pieces they could move. Giolito is almost certainly gone. And wherever he goes is very interesting. If he goes to the Orioles, that team gets a lot better. I don't think they'll trade Dylan Cease for exactly how you mentioned. They're not going to, Ryan doesn't have the balls to do a true fire sale, so we're not going to see it. But Giolito even could change some things in wherever he goes, especially some of these races being so close. So I would keep an eye on the White Sox, if only to see who they move. And, a guy like Kendall Graveman, he could go somewhere and help out a bullpen. Are they going to make some of these moves in some of these parts here? But I have no confidence they're going to do anything right from their perspective. It's a question of where these other players go.
And I mean this with all the respect in the world. This is a very sincere thing I'm about to say because it's a sensitive fucking topic. But he announced it. Lucas Giolito is going through a divorce right now. And I think you get a guy like that coming off you want to talk about a chip on the shoulder? Well, mid-season, irreconcilable differences. Please. Baltimore, by all means, you're getting a guy with a completely different level to get to now, or it could go the other way. That's what type of the distraction. We're not talking about a guy who had a bad day. This is heavy shit. This is your high school sweetheart stuff. So
I've been through a divorce. It fucks you up.
You got divorced?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, man.
It's one of it's the worst thing I went through in my life. It's awful, and like it crushes you, and it sent me back. Like I was thinking of him when I read. I was like, fuck. Like I had the ability and the luck where I was in New York, able to go back home to New Hampshire and be with my family for a couple months because I needed people to take care of me. I was a mess, so I can't imagine being like, oh, I'm going to divorce. A, it's public, and B, oh, don't forget you got to take the ball every 5th day. Fuck me, like that sucks. But to his credit, though. He seems to be professional. He's having a very nice season. And, I will say this, to your point. What helped me a lot was a change of scenery. Like, going from New York back to New Hampshire did help a lot. And it helped me get my psyche, just helped me kind of, like, restart myself a little bit. So maybe him getting traded might be the best thing for him. Either way, he's a free agent at the end of the year. I think he definitely needs to see scenery from a professional perspective because the White Sox are they're just been a neutral. Or worse, reverse. Like, get away from that disaster. Go somewhere better.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the insight there, didn't know. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for opening up a little bit. Sorry if that made that awkward. Did not know. It's good to draw on. It's good to draw on. I try to draw on my experiences in and outside the dugout as we talk about the people that make up this beautiful game. AL Central, just Tito. Tito's town. That's all I see. That's okay. It's the flyover states for a reason, guys. We're just flying on over. As we drag our way out west, I will just say the Cardinals selling, big surprise. For me, though, the NL Central really and I know as a Cubs fan, the Cubs fans, come on, Carl, like back us up a little bit. I'm not here to pump shit on the Cubs. I'm here to talk objectively as I can about the Major League Baseball season. And to me, it's the Reds and it's the Brewers. And the Cubs don't have the thunder and the firepower either in the lineup or in the starting pitching to get there. They've got tons of experience. They've got great things to build off, a foundation, prospects coming. They can spend money in the offseason. You like the manager, the ballparks, all this bullshit. But like, if we're not winning a World Series this year, then don't play games with my heart. And I'm realistic enough to look at this Central and say it's the Reds and it's the Brewers, and it's two completely different teams and identities. Ultimately, though, kind of rounding out in the same grades. At the end of the day, they both have like the same overall score to me, I think, for the last 70 games. So when I look at the Central, it's just the Cubs can sell. Nobody gives a shit about the Pirates. Nobody does. And the Cardinals are going to surprise people and sell. If Arenado's a Yankee or whatever the fuck's going on there.
You could look at for them if they don't get Shohei and Soto. I will say this, though. So my pick for the Central is the Twins. I think that pitching staff will hold them over. So we disagree finally for that.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not saying it by very much. I mean, they say it with as little conviction as possible because I don't really like any of these teams. But I just think having a 4-man staff that you can go out there every day and basically throw a quality starter close to it. Bailey Obert's pretty good. Pablo Lopez is pretty good. Joe Ryan, Sonny Gray, they're good pitchers. So, you have enough there. Maybe Correa can have a big second half. Might be enough. But like I said, if the Guardians win, I would have zero surprise. That's just my pick.
That's my fault. I just assumed that you were you're such a Bochy guy. I thought you were such a Tito guy.
No, it's nothing against Tito. Tito's the best manager in my lifetime, maybe. No, it's not that. It's just but it's the other side on the Central. So I got a lot of flack from my Cubs prediction. I will say I agree with you for the most part. They're not going to win a World Series, obviously. I will say I'll stick to it, and people can laugh at me. A 1-26 roster. Once again, I think the Cubs still have that best roster of those three teams: the Brewers, the Reds, or the Cubs. But I think there's 7 back now. Like at some point, it's like they're not that good. Where I think they can make a spell, and plus, I think they might think they're gonna have to sell. So the window is probably closed in the Cubs. That is with Brewers and Reds. So I think the Reds are going to win. I've said, the Brewers are going to win. See, I think the Brewers are going to win. The Reds, starting pitching gets in the way. But one thing I'm super excited about is this series right after the break. We got Brewers and Reds in Cincinnati. I want to go over these pitching matchups with you because I think they're interesting.
And let me tell you while you get in these pitching matchups. So I'll offer up that this is very important because there's no tiebreak bullshit. It's head-to-head to determine division championship and playoffs and stuff. So right now the Brewers are ahead 5-2 in the season series. They've played 7 games. I think they have 8 more games to play.
No.
So
less than that, right?
12? I thought they played 15.
The schedule is different now, right? Because every team plays every team in theory once. So I thought it was 12 or 13 now. I could be wrong,
Okay.
but I thought it was less.
You only assume there's 6 teams up. It's just a slight nuance. I'm like, sure, it's out of the gate, it's second half, but like, as a fan, and I talked to a couple. I went on a Reds podcast and talked to my guy Nick about this, and like, I was saying like, well, it's tough because it's out of the second half. There could be rust. He's like, we don't have time for rust. There's no time for rust. We're 2-5 against the Brewers on the season, and heaven forbid we're tied at the end of the year, and then that makes us a 6 seed instead of a 3 seed.
And what makes it, you're absolutely right. So neither team has time for rust. And then what I like too is it kind of sets it up with interesting pitching matchups because both teams have the break. So we're getting kind of the best from the starting pitching perspective. Now these games are in Cincinnati, but the first game you got Corbin Burns against Ashcraft, who, I mean, you gotta like the Brewers in that one, I think. The second game is let me find it here. Peralta against Abbott. I think you might have to give the edge to Abbott there, right? Although his last start was very bad. So keep an eye on him potentially, maybe come back to earth a little bit. And then the final game, which could be the rubber game, I think both me and you might agree that looks that way. We have Hauser versus Lively, and they're both pretty similar as far as their stats for the year. I think this is pretty exciting. I'm going to have my eye on this series all weekend. I think there are some pretty cool series as we get right out of the gate. Like, I think some of these series are like we have Padres, Phillies, I'm super excited about. Marlins, Orioles is a good one. And we have D-backs and Blue Jays. All starting Friday. I'm amped up. Let's go baseball. I'm excited.
Hey, tip your cap to Rob Manfred because I've enjoyed some of the scheduling stuff. Yeah, I know you won't. But this is a nice touch.
Rob Manfred.
It's a nice touch. It's a nice touch out of the All-Star break that we have these series, and it's on purpose. It's on purpose you have Phillies popping.
Oh, we knocked out. He thought Marlins or Orioles was going to be a good series when they made this schedule. Boom.
No, I didn't, but I didn't let that one in. That one was lucky. What was the other one?
Reds Brewers is going to be one item.
Let's go, Rob. Let's go, Rob. Okay, fine. You know, I always try to give Rob Manfred.
I know.
That's a good
panel, boy.
You like Manfred. You know what? If you sat at a Mets game with Rob Manfred and had the conversation I had, you'd probably walk away thinking that guy's misunderstood. And I like misunderstood people. I'll cheer for a guy like that. It's also, I don't know. Just take a look at some of the people that talk shit about Rob Manfred. It's just easy to be like, I don't want to be with you. I don't want to be on your team. Can we finish? I'm sorry. Can we finish? My NL Central pick is the Reds. And I think it's very close. I'm staying with the Reds because I have faith that when Lodolo comes back and is healthy, when Hunter Green is healthy, and that Ashcraft was like figuring his shit out and that the last couple starts. And so I think you're playing what you've seen is way worse than who they can be and who they will be over the last 71 games of the season. I could be wrong about that. I think this is a very narrow thing. Opposite that with the Brewers, I love their leadership. I love the fact most of these guys have come up together, played together, have been around each other, even though they're the island of misfit toys. Craig Counsell is an extremely underrated manager. People go to Milwaukee and don't really play that well. When you go to Milwaukee, when Milwaukee comes to your town, people don't go crazy. So they're like sneaky. They can like come in and you're like, oh, who really gives a fuck? Who cares about Joey Weirmeyer or whatever? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, you just lost 3 of 4 in Milwaukee. That to me is the great strength of the Brewers over the long run, is the fact that like if it was just like a prize fight or whatever, they don't get knocked out. They're always there in the 15th round and they maintain that same identity. Corbin Burns hasn't been in. If Corbin Burns comes out in the second half and pitches like Corbin Burns, the NL Central is kind of fucked. However, and this is what I'll say about the Reds, this group of young guys going out with this idea of like, we're going to win every day and we give a fuck and we're awesome and all this shit. Like, as long as they have that, boop, 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 and I know you don't really believe in it, but I very much do. And as long as they have that and they can get out in the second half, if they get a little bit of a spurt and some momentum, then they can keep off the Brewers. I think the Brewers will be chasing them most of the second half, but I think the Reds have enough. I think. And you think I'm wrong.
I think you're wrong. The Brewers have some problems, though. Like, I'm not this guy running around going, Brewers, yay! Like, no, they have some issues. So for a long time, they couldn't hit lefties, and they seem to be getting a little better at that, but now they just can't hit righties now. At the end of the day, they just can't hit. So they need to get some offense, and they need to get some offense right away. And I don't know if they have the pieces in the minor league system or they have the pieces to make a move for a guy. And I just look at that offense, and it is tough. It's funny. If you could somehow build a super team of Brewers and Reds, you'd have a pretty good team. Take some of that Brewers starting pitching and that Reds lineup, but I think you'd have something there. But obviously you can't do that. So I don't. I'm going to take the Brewers here. I think the Reds starting pitching is just is so bad. But if you told me, the argument we had on this show, to go back to that a little bit, was, are the Reds a top 9 team in baseball? That to me was a big no, because we were leaving off the Giants and the Marlins, and that I had a real issue with. If you told me the Brewers, or the Reds are going to be the Brewers in the Central, now the Cubs are probably finished, especially if they sell some pieces, I'm not going to yell and scream about that. But I will say I think the Brewers win. But I mean, honestly, if it was, if it wasn't for my reputation kind of looking stupid, I'd be rooting for the Reds. Be fun to see. This one now I'm all in, so fuck them. I think my head somewhere.
I enjoyed the commentary on that. I think it's just passion. The people that were really shitting on you about this are just passionate Reds fans that want to see them win. I don't think any sensible baseball fan now that listen to the full debate segment that I posted on Twitter. I think I posted like all 10 minutes. We really talked through it.
So
you didn't sound.
I'm just for expand some credit. So I had a blog last year about Albert Pujols, and I was like, it's a little fishy that he's hitting all these home runs. And I got about 24 death threats from Cardinals fans. With this Reds blowback, I would just say I got about 5 people telling me I should be fired, which is much less than death. So I have to give the edge to Reds fans over Cardinals fans.
Cardinals fans are awful people.
I'm sure many. I know I have a friend of mine. He's a very great guy, but I will say though, a lot of anger. A lot of people did not want me alive.
No, there's good ones. There's good ones out there. There's good Taco Bells out there. You don't get say no. I mean, there's good stuff out there. There's good people out there in that fan base. But by and large, like you can get some mean, you get some trolls. I have 2 teams coming from the Central line between the Reds and the Brewers. I think both teams. I think they chase and compete hard enough where the Brewers are the 6th seed in the wild card.
Oh no,
I think they get. I don't. But you said how many? You asked me how many games do I think the Reds will win, and I said 90, just to stick it to you. So go. I think the Reds can win 91, 92 games. I think the Brewers can win 90, 91 games. Why not?
Because they're not good. Neither team is very good.
The month of August is move, make, shake month, man, and both teams are poised to make some moves. The Reds are young and spry, dude. August is gonna come like a hot knife through fucking warm butter.
I'll give the Brewers 85 wins, the Reds 83. Brewers get in the playoffs and get wiped away very quickly.
See, I think the Marlins are. I got the Marlins on the outside looking in.
I know
the Marlins.
That's where it knows. I think that to me is. I think the Marlins are so much better than either the Reds or Brewers.
I don't think the Marlins are piggybacking off Jorge Soler hitting cleanup, bro. Come on.
So your defense here, I think, would be, listen, Chris, like the Marlins have a tough division they play in, especially with having to face the Braves. And
come on, Chris, how about Sandy Alcantara is not who he was? You're relying on Jesus Luzardo to like continue to get better over the last.
They also have Braxton Garrett, though, and
sure. I know they do. And Yuri Perez is in Double-A.
I think this piece is there. I think, to your argument, though, the Reds and Brewers both have a much softer schedule. So maybe you're right. Maybe that's how they sneak in maybe that's how they get that 6th spot in the wild card, though, is by taking advantage of that weaker schedule. The Marlins won't have such an easy way there.
See, you see a weak schedule. I see good leadership. You see a weak schedule. I see young guys playing together, loving each other. Fuck you. You think one team out of the Central. One team only.
Yeah, I only have one.
You don't think either of those teams is going to get hot going on a run? I think
one of them will get hot going on one. I don't think both.
Hey, I'm just pulling my notes up because you got me a little rattled here. I want to make sure I got the transition. I like what I see from both clubs. All right. You dealer's choice. West or we got to talk about let's go West. Do you want to talk about the American League or the National League? With obviously Shohei. Obviously, I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk AL because we just talked NL. So
Shohei Ohtani you've said this. He should have gotten traded last year. He didn't get traded. Right. He probably will get traded this year.
I don't know if he will, Carl. We both agree he should. I'm just saying I don't trust anything the Angels do.
But nothing you do is going to be any worse than what's going on in Oakland. Now's the time to move that guy. Like, you can slide under the radar. People will be like, oh, remember?
You're not going to slide in the radar Ohtani.
People will care about where he goes. They won't care about where he was. Like, you'll be just so interested about Shohei with the Yankees. No one's going to be sitting around being like, the fucking Angels. We've already been doing that for a decade. Well, all we do is shit on the Angels. So it's not like they're going to get rid of him, make one sensible decision, and now all the roof's going to collapse on the Angels. They're conditioned to being fuckfaces. Now is the time to not be a fuckface.
I feel so bad for their fans. Yeah, I don't know. The Angels are a mess. We both agree on that. Yeah, no argument here. Angels,
Sure.
We both agree. They should move Shohei. I don't think they will. I hope they do. I don't have any faith in anything they do.
And I liked what you said. If the Angels want a peace of mind, just go in. Here's $550, 10 years, yes or no. Just do this now. We don't have the time, mental space, capacity to deal with your sweepstakes.
Right. We're in a spot where we need to do something. Like, that Ohtani they have to understand it. Now, Ohtani, honestly, if I'm his agent, I'm like, do not take that deal. Like, we go to the open market. But if you're the Angels, you have to do that.
I mean, can we pick a team for him to get traded to?
I think the best team is the team that makes the most sense in my mind is the Yankees. It's not the team that I want him to go to. It's the last one.
I would love to see the Rays, like, just surprise everyone. We got to this point.
Because you don't need to pay him. It's only 2 months. So, it would make sense. The thing is, though, they're going to have to give up so much to get him, and then they have no chance of re-signing. Where the Yankees have a chance, sure. The Rangers could re-sign him. They don't. The Dodgers could re-sign him.
Yeah, I like the Rays a lot, though. The Rays would be sick.
It'd be wild.
Because they need they could use it, but they could use that bat every single day.
Colors?
Man, I should have called that out off the top. Because I usually do, the one time you don't wear a collared shirt, you got the original Devil Rays color scheme, which is that's from Microsoft Word font.
I love this
color scheme.
I love this. Every expansion team, their best uniform is the first one. The Diamondbacks, the Rays, who am I forgetting? The Marlins.
Are you sure that's true, or is that just the nostalgia talking? Is that the nostalgia talking?
No, I don't think so. You
kid opening.
Have now that stupid sun. This is way cooler. You even have a cool Devil Ray on it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's cooler now. I think back then it was when the Diamondbacks had bright purple.
Right. I hate that's somewhat nostalgia talking, but the other options have been so gross.
What do you think of, while we're here, old uniform, what do you think of when Jason Kendall was a Pirate, they went to the actual swashbuckler looking Pirate? Do you remember that? I think it was for a brief period of time. Did you enjoy that? Would you, I don't like a face I don't like a face on my logo. I traditionally hate faces.
They used to have faces in the 80s. If you go back and look at the 86, 85 Pirates, it was a different kind of pirate. You had a patch. He was a little different kind of pirate.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that either. My favorite pirate look is probably the one I actually kind of like what they have now. Like that.
Yeah.
I think the color scheme they have. I don't really like black uniforms. So I don't really love the black and yellow and white. It's kind of boring to me. But if I think I like how they are now. I don't like the stuff in the 70s. It's too garish. It's just too much almost for me even.
The yellow hats. Well, I mean, it's awesome because they were dominant. You've got Clemente and Stargell out there. It's pretty sweet in that case. Yeah, I'd pick that hat too. I think I won a snake draft with that hat.
Oh, really?
I think so. The piping, the black one, the conductor hat.
I don't like that look.
This is the second half preview show, and I'm debating if I want to get into batting practice alternate hats from 2001. I don't. You look great. That's a great shirt. You're going to see Mission Impossible tonight. I'm going to keep this train on the tracks. It's the AL West. I have the Astros beating the Rangers coming back, and the most convincing reason why is that the Rangers have played outstanding baseball. That includes when Corey Seager was out. Now that he's back, They're only 2 games up on the Astros, who like just have categorically battled through way more shit than any of us have anticipated. They haven't played their best baseball yet. The Rangers have. So I would go down in a fight with the Astros on this. Either case, though, I think both team wins over 95 games. I think they're in that 94, 96, 95. Like I should say over 90, both teams over 93 and a half.
Yeah, I agree with you. So here's why I think the Rangers, it's tough sledding for them. I didn't realize this until recently, but Dane Dunning is 4th in the American League in ERA. Like, I just don't think
that's regression, City. That's just regression.
And that's tough. And he's been awesome because you figure they had to throw him in a tough spot when the ground went down. He's been awesome, obviously. You're right. I just don't know if that can hold up. And Eovaldi, too, is pitching so much better. Even though I think he's a very good pitcher, but he's been like Cy Young caliber this season. So I don't think that can hold up. The Astros are still the best ERA in the American League. They have some offensive issues, but you can kind of understand why. Altuve's missed a lot of time. I know he's hurt again. The big thing is, Jordan. Like, when does he come back? Because he runs that team. The Astros really need to make a move for a bat. Like, the Astros lineup is just atrocious. Like, they need to go out there and get a real hitter, especially if Altuve's going to miss some time and so is Jordan. Like, go get someone right now that can fill some of these spots until those guys get back. The Astros are not as good as they were last year. Obviously, they lost a guy that won, had an ERA under 2. It was incredible in Verlander. Like, they lost him. Obviously, he's regressed, but he still had replaced that line. Like, he still was that guy for them last year. And so they're not as good as they were last year, but they were so good last year that you can lose some of those guys and it still works out. Jose Abreu, I don't know how you fix that. But I agree with you. Astros over the Rangers. I have both teams making the playoffs.
Okay, so yeah, you have Astros over the Rangers coming back. Good. Well, I mean, it's the first time we've agreed, I think, other than the Braves.
We agreed on everything except for the Central.
Oh.
We had the same East teams, even the wild card teams, and we had the same teams in the NLs, too.
I like the Rangers in the playoffs. So I think when they get to the playoffs, you said you bring up Eovaldi. He doesn't fall out. Bro, what? He's so nasty. He's so nasty. And a lot of my confidence in him, my confidence has matured with him this season. So April, I'm like, yeah, sure thing. May, throwing jabs. June. Now it's like, okay, I'm kind of getting tired of trying to poke a hole in Eovaldi. Now I'm kind of like, you know what? This is a guy who's had 2 Tommy John surgeries. He's been to hell and back. He's achieved a ton. He's dominated in postseason before. He's there for a reason. He's the Rangers guy. They believe in him. He's got Bruce Bochy in between innings, in between starts, talking to him and shit about that maturation and all that stuff comes together, and he's fucking filthy, and he can pitch at the top of a rotation. I like him a lot. I hate the fact you brought up Dunning, though. I hate that.
The one thing I like Rangers on the other side of the argument is they are the only team that have made a true, a real move. The Angels got Eduardo Escobar and Moustakas. That doesn't count. They went out and got Chapman, and he's been 3 innings for them. He's been, pretty good. Lights out those 3 innings, but that tells me that they're willing to make the investment to make this team better because that bullpen's kind of rough. So getting Chapman makes them a little bit better. They go get a couple more guys, and they, their offense is pretty good. Corey Seager, how much time has he missed this year? 91. He's missed over 30 games this year. Is he going to miss 30 games in the second half? I don't think so. So maybe the Rangers and Astros are both awesome. They're both making the playoffs. It just matter who wins the division.
Yep. All right, let's do this.
Well, one more thing quick before we move on. Seattle Mariners, keep an eye on them. I don't have them making the playoffs, but they're playing some good baseball. And I don't know. And Shohei Ohtani, I keep bringing up Ohtani, but he is the topic of the world right now. He does spend a lot of his off seasons in Seattle. So I don't know. Would the Mariners make a move, try to get a little bit inside track to keep him around next year? I don't know.
That'd be worth it. If you're Seattle, it would be worth it to get him close to the team.
And he missed the playoffs by 2 games, and then he goes somewhere else. That is the worst situation.
Yeah, that would suck. But you did have Ohtani for those 2.5 months or whatever. Fuck, man. I feel like I should apologize to Shohei Ohtani for not thinking he was sweeter sooner. Like, I'm sorry I personally feel bad because it took so long for me to just like really buy into how awesome
It took a while for me too, Carl. I think the problem for me was he's like my whole, I spend a lot of time in baseball history and looking at stuff. I just never seen anyone like him, and I just I think my brain had a hard time understanding it, and I still have a hard time understanding it. He's so good, and he's so unique, and he's so special and so amazing that like I couldn't process it. It took me like a year to like really buy in and like understand and I still don't understand what I'm seeing.
Like, he leads the league in triples.
Is that true?
I don't even know if Anaheim is like a triples park. Yeah, look it up. He's got like 6 or 7.
I see. Shit, that's what I mean. Like, I still don't get it. Like, because that wouldn't fit his skill set, you would think. Because you know how it is, guys who do triples. It's like, Lance Johnson is a big triples guy, right? It's that kind of guy. He's got 6 triples. You see, stuff like that like breaks my brain, and I just don't understand what I'm seeing. He got it's almost like 2021. He's had 20 triples the last 2.5 years.
Long strides, man. I've said this story before. This is a good time to retell this mini story. But I played a round of golf with Joe Madden before he got fired. This is the year before he got fired.
From the Angels?
September.
From the Cubs?
Yes, from the Angels when he was in town. So this is late 2021, September 2021. And my buddy had set it up for the Angels, and he grew up with like a guy on the team. So they bring out like 10 guys, and then me and my buddy go play with them. And so my buddy matched me up with Joe Madden because he's like, of course, I'm going to put you with Joe. So Joe is super cool. Right away, fucking bullshitting on the first tee box, having drinks and all that shit. So it's just a super cool, relaxed environment. They had a game that night. So I'm just trying to set the stage. It wasn't like a charity thing.
Okay.
We played one hole and anyone made him do it. It was like pure recreational boys hanging out. And I was presented to him as like, hey, he can just be in the group or whatever. And we talked obviously a lot about the Cubs, but I was so interested because at the time they had Pujols, Trout, and Ohtani on the roster. And I'm like, dude, how do you manage the, like the expectation, all that stuff? And what he was really unique about Ohtani in this exchange is he had framed Trout and Pujols as just utterly crazy and relentless about success. Just crazy. And he was like, Ohtani's crazy about being on the field. He's got to go play short. He wants to go shag balls. He wants to get in the cage. He wants to hit right. He wants to hit left. He wants to pitch. He wants to pinch run. He wants to, like, he would go play in a AAA game tomorrow. If I told him you could take the, fly down, they need a right fielder, he would do that. Then he'd come back. And so what he's insane about is just being on the field and playing. It's like literally a little kid. Where Pujols will be saying if you throw him bad soft toss, then he won't look you in the eyes for like a year. Or to the extent of like the level of it, you'll never get to that level with Ohtani, which is something that endears him the most to me, because it's the same feeling when you were a kid and you were like, yeah, if we could play 3 games today, I'd play 3. If we could play 4, I'd play 4. Turn the lights back on. I want to play until we can't fucking play. And for him to be the absolute best player in the world and one of the best pitchers in the world and just like, wants to play is the most special thing to me. I just couldn't get over that. Of all the things I heard that day about the World Series team and Byron, we did this and that, I was walking, oh man, you're telling me Shohei Ohtani wants to take fucking grounders at short?
I guess
that's insane.
I guess that's how you become a great pitcher and great hobby. You just always want to be out there. Okay, so Joe Madden is 69 years old right now. Is there any...
Yeah, he would manage.
Yeah, I'm sure he would. I don't think I would have any. If you were a team, okay, Blue Jays. I said they should can Schneider. Would Madden make sense for a year or two, or is the game past them by? Like, where are we? 70 years old, 69 years old. That's awful old. We're almost in the La Russa territory now. We're getting there.
He will not manage unless he can fill out the lineup card and not have influence from the front office over playing time, matchups, and all that stuff. He said once the 26 come into the clubhouse, they're my 26. So if you want to give me information and you want to do presentations to me on a day-to-day basis of who is where, and you want to give me the database of information and you want to collaborate with me, fine. But it's my 26 in how they get deployed. Like, I have final say and all that stuff, and I don't want any lineup cards. And my understanding is the Angels are telling them, like, this is the lineup.
Well, I think that happens a lot of teams. I think that
No. There's a lot of, here's what we think you guys should do tonight. We're not telling you guys that you have to do it this way, but this is what the front office thinks. And a lot of managers are like, okay, that's the fucking lineup. Where Joe is getting that's how they did it with the Cubs, and Joe would be like, don't give a fuck. So then that became a problem. So then when he went out with the Angels, it was like, yeah, I don't know about that. So then they ran into it enough. So I think
Joe Madden, I think the way he describes it is a fair way. Like, you're employing me to manage your baseball team. But I don't think the reality of 2023 baseball will allow for that anymore. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying it's how it is. You know what I mean?
I agree with you that the environment does not lend itself to that decision making anymore. And it would have to be an above and beyond. Like, I think David Ross can get by with it because he has relationships with there, and he's been with the Cubs for. And even then, I think it's like, David, it's not really a recommendation. It's like almost like like summer football coaches being like, you guys don't have to go to the workout. It's like, oh yeah, sure, I don't have to fill out this lineup card. So
they're like, you don't have to go to this, group event, this employee, whatever, this employee, this, but you fucking better go. Like, if you don't go, you're fucking, that's the kind of stuff you need to do.
Are you going to the 20th of Boston?
I had to have to go. I also am interested to go, but of course I'll be there.
I'm interested. I got an email. I thought that's a nice looking RSVP.
Easier.
Don't know about
travel wise. It's just me getting a bus, which the company supply. I'd be an idiot not to go. So of course
Let's stay in the West quickly. I know you're on a Mission Impossible. I'm unpacking boxes. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is my first day in the new house. Thank you, everybody. Just bought a Tempur-Pedic mattress that cost me almost $5,000. I did not know that until you were checking out. Invest in your sleep, though, guys. Invest in it. Okay. I do think the Padres get hot. I think that the Diamondbacks win a wild card spot. I don't think that the Padres take a wild card spot, or do I have them doing it? Let me make sure my notes are clear here. No Padres. I do have the Dodgers winning the division. Sorry, Zach. And I have the Diamondbacks winning the wild card. A lot of things that we've talked about repeatedly in this programming throughout the year, we don't need to repeat here now. The Diamondbacks, young, talented. This is where we're kind of at. I just like the Dodgers. Taking that said, but I do think the Diamondbacks not only host a wild card, I'm misspeaking.
Yes.
I have the Diamondbacks 5th seed going to Philly, the 4th seed, and winning the first round of the wild card.
Oh, wow. Okay. I have the Dodgers and Diamondbacks both, and the Giants all making the playoffs from this division. And I have the Dodgers winning the division as well. My biggest concern with the Diamondbacks is Merrill Kelly. I need him back soon. I think the Diamondbacks are going to make a move. So I have some confidence there. I think the Dodgers are going to make a move as well. They usually do, and I think that they're primed to do that. This is the Dodger team with the most holes we've seen in a while, and I just think the Giants are playing some good baseball. Giants and Phillies are in the same boat. These are teams that are playing really well, especially of late. They're a team that have a lot of talent, and teams that I kind of believe in. I think that I really love. I can't say enough good things about what the Giants did as a pivot. They lose out on Judge. They lose out on Correa. The whole thing falls apart. And they then spend the money in a bunch of different areas. And because of that, they give their team a bunch of different chances. Now, is Michael Conforto as good as Aaron Judge? No shit. He's not even close. But you tack on a couple of these guys that they went and got. Not every guy works. They went and got Ross Stripling, who's been kind of terrible this year. But then they went and got Rogers, who's been very good in the bullpen. They are using Sean Manaea a little differently. And he hasn't been worth what he's been paid, but he's been interestingly effective coming out of the bullpen. Like, they'll have Stripling throw 2 innings, and they'll bring Manaea on for 3. Or if a pitcher gets hurt early, they can bring Manaea in, and he's starting to show some real effectiveness and some real ways to eat innings and help that bullpen, which has been awesome with Duvall, the Rogers brothers, and Alexander. So I think the Giants, by being creative and thinking quick on their feet, when the two major superstars they try to get fall apart, and now they're playing among the best baseball in the National League. So I like them to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to go very far. Don't get me wrong. They're going to win the World Series, but I think they're pretty good. I think the Phillies have a better chance of going further than them because I believe in Nola and Wheeler more. But then again, who the fuck am I to not count on Logan Webb and Alex, especially Alex Cobb? Like Logan Webb is a legit top 10 pitcher in the National League.
If you go up and down the Giants lineup, it's actually way more balanced than you'd think.
It might be
with
the most balanced in the major leagues because they were able to use that money and not get that one superstar. And I think balance can get you to the playoffs. I don't know if balance can always win you a World Series. But,
yeah. Well, we could talk balance. Balance to me is like, and I wouldn't go as far as to say an early Oakland Athletics 2000s lineup. Balance would be more like, might have been early 2000s. I feel like the Red Sox after they got rid of Manny.
After they got rid of Manny. Oh, it's interesting. I was thinking Red Sox when they moved Nomar. They moved Nomar and got Minkiewicz. They got Cabrera, and they ended up getting Dave Roberts in a separate deal. And that gave them like more flexibility and more different things they could do. And that's what kind of propelled them to get, they were kind of a fringe wild card team at that point. Then they just owned the wild card, and then obviously they went and won the World Series. So balance in that case, but they had superstars, right?
Sure, that's what I'm saying. But like it's the Bill Millers and the Trot Nixons of the world that kind of fill in and still put up the 110 OPS pluses. So when I look at the Giants, it's like, all right, I'm just going to read off these are the 11 the 12 players, I should say, that get the most playtime. 121, 132, 108, 119, 114, 104, 120, 107, 117, 78, and 76. So Brandon Crawford at 76 and Mitch Haniger at 78. Mitch Haniger's on the 60-day.
Yeah, I wouldn't
really. I wouldn't even. It's really just Brandon Crawford, who at 36 years old, 13-year career. He was an all-star in 2021. It was incredible. Banged up last year, only played 118 games, got 60 games this season.
He's one of the guys they spent that money on, and that obviously hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
But when you spend it on 5 or 6 guys, 2 of them, 3 of them don't work out. A couple of them do. It's enough. I will say one thing, Patrick Bailey, he's kind of changed that lineup. I have some concerns about him calling games. You look at some of the starting pitchers with the Giants and how their ERA is when Bailey's the catcher. It gets a little dicey, but that also could be.
Oh, fuck, you know that. Where'd you find that split? Who are you shaking down?
It's almost like I pick a different player prop each day, and I'm looking mightily at every single piece of data I can get my fucking hands on. It's like, that's how I go 12-2 my last 14. Not to brag.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Sportsbook's updated.
I don't know if people. It's not updated when people hear this, but it will be soon. There will be press release. I know. It's coming out very soon. I promise that. It's all.
Yeah.
It's all
if it's not, I misread the.
Soon. I don't want people going to hear this. By the time people hear this, it may very well be ready to go.
And if I let you down, deal with it. Like if I gave a little piece of bad information there, that's bound to happen. But a long day on a moving truck. Cannot say enough nice things about my movers, by the way. Holy smokes, what a team of professionals. I was thinking, if I could get the Chicago Cubs infield to fucking play and care the way these guys are managing a dresser up a flight of stairs. Holy shit. I like the Giants. I like what you're talking about. I'd like to see them get there. I don't have them in the playoffs. I would enjoy watching that team compete in the playoffs, so for the reasons that we talked about. They don't have a superstar you can rely on. Somebody else can step up and have a great moment. You've got a couple of really durable front-end starting pitchers. I mean, God, Logan Webb is so cool. And I know you hate this stuff. Scouts would say, though, and I have that pronounced jaw. I know what they'd say, but he has a pitcher's face. He has a pitcher's face. But you don't know what I'm talking about. It has to do with testosterone in bone structure. You have a pitcher's face, buddy. There's a reason you don't.
Like those, the guys in Moneyball.
No,
his ass.
Don't do that. Don't do that to me. Don't do that. Oh, you tell me about a good set of butt cheeks. I'm going to tell you about a good athlete, good bounce, good health, good hamstrings. But he's got to stretch more because he's got more muscle develop. Okay, I'll just get it quickly. Go through this. I've got I have the Dodgers and the Reds, and the Braves and the Diamondbacks in the DS. I have the Braves playing the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are going to beat the Phillies. I've got the Dodgers playing the Reds. I've got the Reds as a 3 seed beating a 6 seed.
I only did a Final Four.
All right, give me your. Let's do Final Fours. Let's do pennants. I'm sorry, I fucked that up. I should have said.
No, I have So I mean, this is hard to do.
Okay,
because so much depends on these moves that we're gonna see here in the next couple weeks. Here, this is why I'm so excited for these next couple weeks. It's gonna be awesome. So much is gonna depend on where Ohtani goes. If Ohtani goes to the Yankees, then the Yankees. I have the Yankees in the World Series against. If Ohtani does not go to the Yankees, and even if they got someone like Soto, I don't think that's probably enough. And then if that's the case, then I'm gonna go chalk and go Rays. So
you work off with what you have now. I want your predictions from not what you think could happen, like right now. What you think?
What I think right now? Then I'm gonna go with Rays, Astros in the ALCS, and I have the Astros winning. And then I'm gonna go Braves and Diamondbacks, because I'm assuming Carly's back, and I also assume they're gonna make a move. I know you said you can't do that, but I'm gonna do that a little bit. Sure. And then I'm gonna have the Braves sweeping the Diamondbacks. I'll say that much. That should put you at ease a little bit. And then we have a Braves Astros World Series. Braves win. Braves are one, and then are known as one of the greatest teams to win a World Series this century.
We're pretty spot on here together, Bill.
I mean, look, the playoffs are crazy. If you told me, let's even do this show a year ago, and I would never have said the Phillies would go to the World Series.
Yeah,
I would never have said that. So if you told me the Phillies won a World Series this year, I wouldn't be that shocked. Like, I'm like, all right, Noah Wheeler, let's go. I see it, I get it. So the cool thing is with man, I love baseball. So I'm so excited. Like, there's so many cool matches coming out to break. There's so many different ways this could go. There's so many interesting trades that are going to happen in the next 3 weeks. Like, I know a lot of NFL fans are really excited for football to start, and I get it. I am too. Man, oh man, I love this time of year because it's like baseball is the number one thing going on right now, and we're post All-Star game. Trades are happening. Pennant races are happening. Let's go. I'm ready.
Let's go. I'm with you, brother. It is we are getting into the best time right now. Obviously, dead season with no baseball as we record this, and it just hits as soon as we get going because you have 2 weeks to figure out who's who, how much gain, how much ground you have to protect or gain or whatever that shit is, and you got time to battle a trade deadline, and then right around then. And I know not to get too broad outside of baseball, but then it's like training camps going, college football season starts, and then there's just the month of September into October is the most beautiful thing when you get to crown a World Series champion. And to your point with the Phillies, I have them the 4 seed. I mean, if they make a run in the playoffs, I wouldn't doubt that at all. The only thing I have different than you, I have the Rangers. The only thing I have different than you, though, is the Rangers beating the Astros in the DS. I had the Rangers over the Rays. I had the Braves over the Rangers.
Oh.
I like them that much in the playoffs. So
wow.
I right now as it stands. So if there's moves to be made, I'm sure. But I really love the Rangers lineup, and I think that can do crazy things on the road in the playoffs.
So we will have the Braves winning.
Yes, sir.
I have the Astros, and you have the Rays. So we are both of the Braves being a team from Texas.
Well said. This is Barstool Baseball. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Whether it's on YouTube, Spotify, however you guys get it. Carl here and Klemmer. We're going to be back with the power rankings on Monday morning. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.